Hi everyone and welcome to the French Watch Collector. Today on the bench we have a very nice vintage watch, a Yema Meangraf Super. You see, like beautiful chronograph, and this one is not in very good condition. We see actually, yes, there is a couple of issues on it, but yeah, what we're gonna do on this watch, we're gonna fully restore this beautiful watch. I love the dial and the hand on this watch, and you see the case is it's not great. It's pretty dirty. You see, we have a serial number on a case back there. But I love this dial, this black matte dial, and with this beautiful hour and minute end, like which has a nice vintage style on it. And just checking if the date is jumping. Yeah, it looks like okay. The date is jumping correctly. Just looking if everything is turning. Gonna check as well if the chronograph, like we do every time, just checking if everything is okay on the watch. I'm gonna start the chronograph. Just speeding it up a bit, you see, just to see if the minute is jumping there. Oh, there is something wrong there. You see that second hand just blocked, yeah? It didn't want to go further, like the stop and reset is working, but yeah, you see when it's just coming to a minute, on a chronograph, there is something wrong on a chronograph there, on a chronograph mechanism. So we're just gonna check what we're gonna do with this watch. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna fully service this watch. We're gonna disassemble everything. First, we need to remove this bracelet there, this kind of rubber bracelet there, which I don't really like. Just removing, you see that one spring here. And on the other side, it was really tight to remove this spring there on a bracelet. So I'm gonna have to do a lot of different tools. And actually, for the tool, you can go down in the description. I'm working with a distributor from France, which is shipping worldwide. And as well, I'm working a lot with Horotech. I love Horotech product, but I don't only have Horotech product, but I put a link down below as well in the description with some of the customized tool from Horotech. And you see there, actually, I could not remove this spring bar, so I have to cut it, yeah. Just gonna use my pliers there just to cut the... Here we go. Yeah, that's it. Just managed to cut the spring bar there. And you see when I put it on the time grapher, yeah, the amplitude is, yeah, it's not great at 275. And actually, I did not adjust the angle there, which would be even lower if I adjust the angle. So yeah, it's gaining 38 seconds per day. So that's not great. Just to tell you as well that I have my own website. I will put a link down below in the description, and as well on the top right corner there, where you can find some information on my website. And as well, this watch actually that I'm going to restore there and service is going to be for sale as well on my website. So you can go there and check the watches which are for sale. And as well, if you want to send me your watch for service, just contact me on my website and I will be very happy to work on your watch. Okay, so now that the bracelet is fully removed, we're gonna open the watch. And actually, this one, it was not tight at all to open the case back. Just gonna see what inside. Oh yeah, we have a beautiful chronograph caliber. You see there is no marking on the case back, on the back of the case back, and we see the caliber which is running, and we see we have, looks like a Valjoux 7734. Just gonna check a bit later if the number on the caliber, but first we're gonna remove the caliber and the die from the case. So we have two screws there, which is keeping the caliber inside the case. Just gonna unscrew this screw there. You see very gently taking the screws out of the way. We see we have a gasket as well, a rubber gasket on the case. I'm gonna replace a bit later on. So this is a bit watertight, even if it's not obviously a watch to go diving, but yes, it's watertight. Just checking, you see now the chronograph as well, which is, we see we have a clutch there, which is engaged in both wheels. So that's working. I'm just checking there the minute. Remember, it did not jump, and look again there. It's just blocked, yeah? Okay, so we have some tweaking to do on the chronograph. At the end, we will do some tweaking on ticking the chronograph, like just to adjust it a bit more. But yeah, there is an issue there with the minute chronograph. Just gonna check there the reset, which actually the chronograph is quite hard. Yeah, there is it's not working very well. You see, this is a cam system chronograph. You see there with the reset, we have the, yeah, it's a bit hard, yeah. So you see, that's as well the purpose of a restoration and a service on a watch. It's just to make sure everything will work nicely again. Everything will be greased and oiled perfectly for all the mechanism to work. But to do that, first we have to remove the caliber. So gently we're gonna turn it around and just lift. You see this beautiful dial there. I love this dial on this watch. Just gonna place, you see the winding stem there, just to make sure after we'll be able to adjust the hour and to have the caliber to run if we need to turn the crown. And the first step is we're gonna remove this beautiful lamp, which are in very nice condition actually on this watch. So I'm just gonna do nothing with the dial and the hand. I love the condition on the dial and the hand, so just going to leave it like this. Just gonna put them, you see, in this little box there, just to make sure I don't damage anything. Just gonna remove now the other hand from the chronograph. I mean, this one is a second hand from the time, and we have the second one, which is a minute hand from the chronograph. And this one was very tricky actually to remove this hand. It was very low on the dial, so I have to go very gently, try to go underneath, you see. Yeah, this one was quite tricky to remove. So very gently, you see, try to lift it up and go underneath. Yeah, there we go, perfect. Always protect the dial when you remove the hands. You have to put, you see, I put a film on top of it, yeah, just to protect the dial, not to, because you don't want to scratch these beautiful dials. They are very fragile. So you always want to put a protection on top of it. Okay, so now I'm gonna unscrew, you see these two little screws there, which are keeping in position the dial fit, so they are in position with these screws there. And we'll be able to lift the dial very gently. You see there with my Orotech tool, with a plastic tip there, just to lift it up very slowly. And again, I love this black matte finish on the crystal, on a dial more. So yeah, it's very nice dial. That's gonna put them in this box as well. You will see this special box just used for this, for to keep the dial in store condition, just to make sure they don't move anymore and they get damaged. So like that, we know that the dial will not get damaged during when we keep it for the disassembly. Okay, we're just gonna disassemble now. You see on the dial side, we're just gonna disassemble the calendar system that we have on this side of the caliber. Just need to remove this big spring there, and we have this bridge on top, which keep all the parts from the calendar mechanism. So very gently, you see, we're gonna lift this part. And underneath we have a couple of parts. Actually, not so many. It's very simple, this calendar mechanism, which I like. I like simple things on a watch. Sometimes you will see some caliber which are let's say, over-engineer. But yeah, this one is pretty nice. Just removing the cannon pinion there. And now we are done on the dial side. We're just going to move on the balance side. I'm going to disassemble the chronograph. And you see we have a chronograph bridge here with, you see some kind of dust on it there. Just going to remove it, you see, with a bit of Rodico very quickly. Perfect. And just going to disassemble the rest of the chronograph. And again, on this, you see under you will see under the balance wheel, we have the number 7734, which is the name of this Valjoux caliber. And yeah, this is a very simple, and that's what I like on a Valjoux. And actually, this Valjoux caliber, a manual chronograph, was used and was manufactured for a long time. And that's what makes this Valjoux caliber same with the 7750, which is an automatic one. They are still used today. It's like a very clever, very well designed, and very robust as well. And that's what they were used for a long time, and were, let's say, very good for money, very good quality for money as well. You see, the finish actually is not a wonderful finish on the caliber. You will see, for example, on the Zenital Primero, or the same thing on a Omega. You will see like better quality, better finish. Let's say on this, not necessary quality, but better finish. But yeah, this one are very robust caliber, and that was this manufacturer, like for example Yema, were using this caliber at the time. They were like great, and let's say tank proof calibers. They were very solid, yeah. And you see, actually, for a chronograph, like there is not that many parts for a chronograph, especially with being a cam system. A lot of parts are integrated together in one. So yeah, it's very clever and very easy as well to maintain, easier than other. For example, if I compare, and you will see some video on my channel with Zenital Primero, like, yeah, the caliber is like much more complex in terms of parts and assembly, disassembly, let's say. So yeah, that's what I like as well on this Valjoux, like, yeah, very clever. It was a very clever design. Just removing, you see this wheel, which is friction mounted as well on the pivot point from a wheel on the train of wheel. And now I can have access to remove the power you see there, which is kept inside the barrel assembly, inside the mainspring. And we should see the caliber coming to a stop. Now we remove all the power from the mainspring. Just gonna wait, and you see we'll slow down very slowly now. And yeah, that's it. We have no more power on the caliber, so we can remove first. We're gonna remove the Joule you see there, which was on the balance here, on the balance assembly. This Joule, obviously, which is going to be clean. Just using a bit of Rodico there just to grab, you see the Joule. Just gonna close, you see this spring on top. And now I can take the rest of the balance assembly. Very gently, you see, lifting the balance. Oh, you see, like, it went a bit out of the way, a bit too far there. So we need to go very careful to make sure we don't damage. You see this hairspring, which is very thin, the spring that you have on a balance assembly. Perfect. Just checking the hairspring there, if everything is okay. It looks like everything is in perfect position. Just gonna remove now the pallet fork. And you see the number there under my tweeter with the Valjoux number. And actually, you see Valjoux with R. And obviously, Valjoux is not existing anymore now. It's part of the ETA, or if we want the Swatch group with Omega. And you will see even now, for example, the 7750, it's not branded with Valjoux now, it's branded with ETA. But yeah, at the beginning, obviously, all this caliber was designed and produced by Valjoux. But obviously, at one point, Valjoux got acquired by the Swatch Group. Obviously, a lot of with the quartz crisis, a lot of the company in Switzerland merged together just to be to stay together and to went against Psycho at the time. That went out with the quartz crisis and obviously the quartz caliber. But yeah, that's why you will have a lot of these parts, a lot of this manufacturing that disappeared. But yeah, they went together, and that's why you still see today a lot of this Valjoux or ETA now caliber, because yeah, that was they still are still existing today. Okay, we just disassembling. You see now the last few parts that we have on this caliber with the crown wheel. Just checking, you see the end check there on the barrel assembly. Just check sideways. You see, it was actually quite good. And from top to bottom, you see I'm just using a piece of pegwood there just to go up and down to see if there is not too much end shake, what we call the end shake. And it's actually okay on this watch. So we don't have to adjust anything. Just do the same thing as well on all the wheel as well, just to check the end shake. There is not too much movement up and down on the wheel, and if we need to adjust it, we will adjust the height of the jewels. But actually on this watch, everything is okay. Just gonna remove, you see this big bridge here. We'll have obviously some wheels from the train of wheel. We'll have as well the barrel assembly underneath. There we go. Just taking the rest of the wheel. And actually on this Valjoux, this wheel is always tricky to be removed. And you see you have an extended pivot on the other side where you have to attach actually the minute hand from the chronograph. The second hand, sorry. And you see you have to lift it very gently. You have to align, you see the in between the spokes of this wheel, you have to align it on you have a kind of triangle shape on the caliber there, on the bridge. You have to align it and gently lift. You will see a bit of tension there. Very gently lift this wheel. Just need to make sure you align in between the spoke you see there of the wheel. That's what I'm doing right now. There we go. And now I can lift it up. There we go. And you see you need to go very gently because you don't want to bend like the pivot point of this wheel. So that's always something very tricky on this caliber. Okay, so now we have removed everything on the balance. We just move back on the dial side. Just gonna remove this ring which keep in position the date disc there. And we're gonna disassemble the rest of the parts there on the dial side. You see we'll have two screws there which keeping this setting lever spring in position. Just disassembling the keyless work here. That's the assembly of all these parts. You see with the wheel there. Underneath we'll have the yoke spring. You see that I'm going to take away and just need to be very careful just to make sure. You see I'm keeping the spring with my Orotech tool there just to make sure it doesn't jump. And if it jumps, it doesn't fly far away. There we go. Perfect. And now you see on my bench, I start to be quite a lot of parts, yeah, on this caliber. But again, like I said, it's not the most complicated chronograph, very well engineered. And we have the last jewel you see from the balance. Remember, we removed the first one, and that's the second side of the balance wheel. We're gonna remove the second jewel there. Just need to place, you see, very slowly this spring in position. Just gonna disassemble the barrel assembly. You remember that's a part we maintain the main spring of the caliber. So just gonna remove, you see this lid on top. We have the barrel arbor in the center that we're gonna remove now. Here we go. And now I'm just gonna take the main spring out of the way. Just gonna disassemble or unwind, if we want, the main spring. You see, with my hand, just going from right to left with my fingers, and just taking this huge mainspring actually on this caliber. Just gonna polish, you see, the pivot point on each wheel from the trainer wheel. And we saw at the beginning that the amplitude was not great actually on his watch. So the amplitude is the enemy of the amplitude is a friction. So that's why I'm polishing, you see, all the pivot point on the wheels. I'm polishing there, you see, the barrel pivot point as well. I'm gonna do the same thing as well on a main plate and on the bridge, just to polish most of the pivot points, just to make sure we reduce the friction. Because if you want to have a pivot point with some scratches in it or some debris, yeah, the friction will be obviously increased and the amplitude will be decreased. So that's why we want to make sure we have the amplitude which is at its best. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm just gonna do a first clean, you see, on the main parts of the caliber. What we're gonna do, I'm gonna put the parts in this solution, and I'm just gonna brush these parts, just to remove basically the dirt, the dust, the dried up oil or grease, like the biggest part of it. And obviously after all these parts, we'll see, we put them in baskets and they will go inside the cleaning machine. But the first cleaning, let's say it's a manual cleaning, and just gonna dry them, you see that, with some hair, just remove a bit of water. And obviously after that, we're just gonna put them in this basket. And before put them in basket, we're gonna put the balance assembly back on the main plate, just to make sure, again, like we do every time, just to make sure we don't damage, especially the air spring, which is a very thin spring there. And like I said, we're gonna put all these parts, you see, in different baskets, different sizes. And all these parts will be clean inside my cleaning machine, and to make sure the parts are as close as possible to brand new parts. And when we're gonna assemble them back together, we don't want to have any dust, any oil, dried up oil or grease, and we will reassemble a brand new caliber again. So first we're gonna put the parts in a cleaning solution, then we'll do 2 steps of rinsing, and we will finish by cleaning the parts, and all the parts will be ready to be reassembled. I would like to tell you that I have my Patreon page. So if you want to go on my Patreon, I will put a link down below in the description, and I will put a link as well in the top bottom in the bottom right corner. And I would like to thank Nathan, Jeffrey, Olan, Marcus, Philip, Roger, Matt, David, Shelby, Jan, Crone, Alan, David, Tony, Tim, and Gregory. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting me on my Patreon. And guys, if you want to go like my Patreon, go and support me again, you can click on a link down below, and you will see on my Patreon, you will have different program if you want to subscribe. And as well, you can subscribe as well on my channel, on my YouTube channel. It will help a lot to promote my channel. And if you did not subscribe, click on blue thumbs up as well. It will help to promote this video, and it will help to share the passion to other watch lover with my video. Okay, so now we're gonna reassemble the watch basically, and gonna put a brand new spring. You remember we removed the old one, and again, just to make sure we want to have the maximum amplitude on the watch, we're just gonna put a brand new mainspring, because I don't know the older one how long it has been there and if it's in good condition or no. So I just prefer to put a brand new one. And now we're gonna use this my Horotech tool just to close the barrel assembly. There we go, perfect. And now we're gonna, and you will see me a lot on this chronograph, oiling, greasing, a lot of pivot point, a lot of parts which are moving together. Again, like I said, is to make sure we reduce with the oil, we will reduce the friction. But again, as well, it's just to make sure as well that the part, because you see, for example, on the barrel assembly, it was the barrel arbors that was rotating inside the barrel assembly. And it's parts metal against metal, and you don't want to have these parts to get worn and to get damaged. So that's why you want to have to put this oil or grease on the parts just to make sure the part don't get damaged and used against each other after being, like, obviously you will see a lot of the parts, you will see them spinning and turning fast and with a lot of strength between each other. So yeah, that's why you want to put the oil. Right now what I'm doing, I'm oiling, you see, with my automatic oiler, I'm oiling, you see, just putting the chaton back on top, that's a joule from the balance assembly. So I'm just going to put a drop of oil inside, you see there, this assembly. And you will see them when we put them together, we see a tiny drop of oil. Obviously, you can put more oil. You see now I'm putting a bit more just to increase the drop of oil to the correct size. And now when it's oiled, just going to put the joule back on the balance assembly. And obviously, when you do that, you need to close the spring there. Just going to do the same thing on the other side of this assembly there. And you will see on this side, when I put the joule, you see the drop of oil, the circle around. That's the drop of oil that I just put with the automatic oiler. And again, we're going to close this spring on top of it. Which spring actually is used for two things. It's used to first to keep the joule in position. But as well, you see the balance assembly, you will have a joule on top and on bottom. And the balance staff, which is a pivot point of the balance assembly, can move up and down on this spring, which is like a suspension, like on your car, a spring. And that's why you want to put this spring, obviously, to keep the joule in position, but as well to have a tiny play, like the handshake, like we said, from top to bottom, to have a bit of handshake on this spring. Like, for example, if you, let's say, want to unstrap your watch and it fall on the ground, if you have a shock, obviously the balance assembly with this spring will absorb the shock on the balance staff. If you don't have this spring, and it was the case before, the balance staff will break. The pivot point of the balance with the shock, it will break straight away. But on this spring, actually, it will absorb the shock, which is a very clever, and obviously all the watch today have this shock system. We have different type of shock system, but all the current and even like this type of shock, I think he came out in 1940s, 1947. I don't remember exactly, so quite a long time ago. And since then, all the watch have this shock system to prevent the balance staff from being broken. Because actually, and we did it on some of the video, to change if the balance staff, if it's broken, yeah, it's quite a tricky operation, and obviously it costs more money if you need to change a balance staff, and just it costs extra money on a service, let's say. So yeah, you don't want to have your balance staff being broken, so that's why you put this shock absorbing system on the watch. Okay, so now I just put back all the balance, the barrel, sorry, and the train of wheel. Just gonna put back now, you see, aligning all the pivot point there on the jewels. Just gonna do the same thing on this other bridge there. You see, with this extended pivot point there, we're gonna put the chronograph wheel attached to it a bit later on. And you see I'm tapping there just to have some vibration and making the parts aligning to each other. And we still have the escape wheel that need to be aligned. And you see, gently, you see, it went down. And we found like the escape wheel in position. And when it is, all the parts and all the wheels will turn. And when it's in position, obviously, we can secure it with the screw to tighten the screw there. And you see this caliber, like now is clean. It's it's very nice, very shiny. That's why I like when you clean a dirty, let's say a dirty caliber, and when it came out of the machine, everything looks new again. Okay, so now the bridge, everything is in position, and we're gonna put back the rest of the parts. Basically, what we're gonna assembling now is just like, let's say, the timekeeping of this watch, which basically, if the watch will have only this part, we will have a watch that will keep the time with what we call a 3-hand watch with no complication. And after, obviously, when that is done, we will add the complication, which is on this one, the chronograph, obviously, and as well the calendar complication. And you will see me again oiling all the pivot point there. You see, like, for example, the barrel there assembly, which we oil against the bridge here, which is again metal against metal. And what we're gonna do now, we're gonna reassemble this beautiful Valjoux on this Yema watches. And actually, I just want to talk about Yema. I don't know if many people know the Yema brand, but it's actually not a Swiss brand. It's a French brand, Yema. It's actually very close to the Swiss border, but is in France, and it's a company that was used and was created, I think, in the 1940s, and they made a lot of watches, and actually a lot of sports watches. For example, you have the Superman, which is a diving watch. You have what we call the Rarest, for example, that was more for the car enthusiasts, let's say, for more the sport car. And actually, a lot of pilots, if you know Mario Andretti, for example, an American pilot, and I was doing Formula One as well, was using the Yema watches for a long time. Like I said, it was as well in yachting. So, for example, you had the yachting graph. I think that was the name of this watch. That was used as well for the aviation. So a lot of tool watch was used by this company. A lot of sports watch and beautiful chronograph actually. Like for example, for yachting, I was using as well a lot of very nice chronograph. A lot of Meangraf, Rallygraph, a lot of different type of watches, but like a lot actually, this company, unfortunately, they disappeared, and they were bought, and when they were still existing, and they were bought actually, they were like a lot of Swiss and French brand. For example, another French brand, for example, Leap, disappeared during the quartz crisis. And actually, Yema was bought for a long time by Seiko. Yema was owned by Seiko. That was just to tell the quality of Yema at the time, just to be owned by Seiko. And Seiko at the time and still today is one of the companies that probably produce like the wonderful quality in terms of watches. And they were used for a long time by Seiko, and they got sold, I think, in 2009 to another French group. And Yema now is still producing, and actually, the last few years they are still producing nice watches, and they are making as well their own caliber in house today, especially a micro rotor, which is beautiful micro rotor caliber made by Yema. Yeah, it's a great company, and obviously in the past it was a great company, but still today now they are making very wonderful French watches, in-house caliber as well. Yeah, and I love their vintage watches. I love, obviously, personally, I love Chronograph, and I love some of the chronographs that they were making before, with wonderful dial as well, very different design in terms of dial on this watch. And that's why I want to show you and to restore this beautiful Yema as well. Okay, so now you see we just reassemble the keyless work there. Just checking if everything is working, and it looks good. Just gonna put the palette fork. Just gonna reassemble, you see the cock on top there. Just reassembling, and you see there, just reassembling the pivot point on the jewel. Perfect. Just gonna wind the watch, and obviously just gonna check if everything is working, and just gonna grease and oil as well the pivot point and the jewel on the watch, starting with the palette fork. You see I'm just dropping, actually this is not oil, this is grease. I'm just gonna a drop of grease, on the existing jewel of the palette fork. I'm just gonna move, you see the palette fork there. I'm just gonna move it for 5 spokes. You see 5 spokes on the escape wheel. I'm just gonna put another drop of oil, of grease, and just gonna do that 3 times, just to make sure we oil each teeth on the escape wheel. There we go. Just gonna oil as well each single jewel and pivot point on the train of wheel, on a barrel assembly as well. Putting different type of oil. Obviously, we'll have 2 type of oil on a train of wheel. We'll have a medium viscosity and a low viscosity, type of oil. You see there, I'm putting a medium viscosity oil on a barrel pivot point there. And you see we have a jewel underneath there to another floor, if let's say on a caliber. Perfect. Okay, and so now everything is reassembled, let's say, on the basic on a caliber, and we re-oil everything. We're just gonna put the balance assembly and just see if the caliber want to start. Just wanted to start there. Yeah, almost. Just didn't align everything. Yeah, perfect. Everything is aligned. Just gonna secure it, and we see now we have a balance wheel which is beating very nicely. And now, basically, like I said, we have a caliber which is keeping time, and only keeping time. So we can basically reassemble it on a watch and just put minute and hour hand and second hand. That's it. But if we want to have a chronograph complication, we have to reassemble the chronograph complication. And we're going to start by putting this bridge on top. You see, which is a chronograph which is added on the top of a standard manual, let's say, caliber, 3-hand caliber. So we add this bridge. And now basically we're going to place in position all the parts from the chronograph, starting by this spring there. This spring bar, which is the spring that we give on the pushers when you push on a pusher of the chronograph. We have another spring, and you will see me putting a lot of spring as well on a chronograph. This is a spring for the minute wheel. You remember that was a wheel that was not jumping on a minute chronograph. I'm oiling, you see there, the cam there from the chronograph minute wheel, which is actually the same thing we're going to put as well on the, we're going to oil as well on the cam from the chronograph second wheel. Just put, you see there, an intermediate wheel for the minute of the chronograph. Okay, just oiling everything, greasing, you see, as well on the chronograph to have a smooth operation. Let's say when you start, stop, and reset the chronograph, we're gonna grease as well a lot of pivot point, a lot of parts that rub against each other on a chronograph. Because the chronograph, obviously, when you push on a button, for example, to start the chronograph, you will have a lot of parts that will move together. And all the parts to move together, obviously, they need to be linked together. And that's why you will have a lot of parts that are in contacts, and you want to have all these contact points to be greased and oiled properly on the chronograph. Just put the brake there, just putting a spring, you see here. Just need to be careful there, very gentle, put it in position. There we go. And now we're going to put the second from the chronograph. You see, just oiling the pivot point there that goes through the center wheel. And you see this spring on top there. Just give it some tension and some friction as well. And this is to have the second head on the chronograph that beat very nicely, you see, and you don't have any strange jump on the second of the chronograph. You want to have a smooth second hand on the chronograph when it's beating, and to give tension in the chronograph mechanism. Okay, and now I just put the bridge that I'm going to secure with the screw. And you see again, putting a spring in position. We're just gonna gently arm this spring you see on the brake there. There we go. Perfect. And you see even like the contact point with the spring, just gonna lubricate it just to make sure the spring, there is no friction and they work very nicely between each other. And now we're just gonna put the different rod that will connect to the cam system. So that's from the pusher button to the cam system, and actually the cam. This is a cam system chronograph. You will have as well the column wheel, but this is a cam. This is the brain basically of the, like I like to say, the brain of the chronograph. It will make the parts, all the parts from the chronograph move together to start, stop, and reset every time you use the pusher. Perfect. And now just putting in position with a screw. Again, I'm gonna oil and grease like every contact point you see on the chronograph. And this is the pivot point from the cam. You see that I'm putting in position. And you see this is a very clever design, because on a cam, which I'm greasing right now, you will have as well the hammer, which is a part that come and reset the chronograph, integrated in one part. Like everything is integrated in one on this. You will have basically a cam and a hammer in one part. And now we're just gonna put it in position very gently. I'm gonna secure it as well with a screw. Perfect. And again, I'm gonna grease like all the contact point there on the parts. Oil you see on the hammer, that's the part that will come and hit again the cam on a chronograph and minute wheel. And just to make sure we'll do a perfect zero on the chronograph. Bit too much oil there that I will just remove with a radical. And again, to give some tension in the chronograph, and in between parts, we're putting springs, you see, like for example, this is a spring for the cam. And you see now we're just gonna check. You see when I'm doing, like if I'm putting the pusher, you see the cam moving, you see all the parts moving, you see the brake moving, and we'll see the reset there. Yeah, that doesn't move because I'm not in the right position. I need to be in a stop position, and I can do the reset. There we go. We see the reset with the hammers that come against the wheels. Just gonna put now, you see the chronograph running wheel there. And now I'm just gonna oil the clutch, which is a lateral clutch on this watch here. Basically, the clutch is the part that will come and in contact or not in contact, like that's what's called the clutch, to the chronograph to stop or start the chronograph. So this is a very important part of the chronograph and something that we'll have to adjust as well. And again, you want to have some tension on the clutch, so we have to put this spring here. Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna adjust the height, you see, of this wheel there, just to make it exactly the same height as the clutch. You see I'm using this tool normally to fit the hands, but it fits as well very nicely, and adjust the height, you see, by pressing on it very gently. And just checking there, tack, we saw the clutch come in contact with the center wheel. We see the center wheel which is turning, and we should see the finger coming to the intermediate wheel of the minute wheel. Now it's coming in contact. And we see the minute hand, but we did not see the jump again on the minute hand. Yeah, that's not good. So we have to adjust some stuff on the chronograph. And we see now we lose a stop and a reset. And we're gonna go on a microscope and we're gonna adjust the chronograph. And you see, we want to check the engagement between the teeth there on the clutch. We need to have 75 to 50% of engagement between the teeth. And you see there, we are 95% of engagement between the teeth. So for that, we're gonna use some screw there. For example, this screw here on the clutch, which are for screws for adjusting the chronograph. And basically, you see I'm turning in one direction. And you see this is even worse, so we need to go in the other direction. And you see we are moving ever so slightly the clutch there, and we want to move it to the position where we have, like I said, 75% of engagement in the teeth, in between the two teeth there. So you see now, it's moving a bit, it's going further. It looks like it's not too bad here. Getting closer to 75%. And that's how you adjust chronograph. You see there, yeah, it's not, yeah, now it's in good condition, like in good position, good engagement between the teeth there. Same thing of the engagement between, you see the clutch and the chronograph center wheel, which is almost like, again, 95% there. And we want to have a 50% engagement here. So we're gonna, again, use another screw to adjust the engagement there. And now, yeah, it looks like it's much better here on the engagement. Yeah, that looks like it's perfect right now. So that's how you adjust a part of the chronograph. And we see as well, we saw there was a problem on the minute. You see, like, we see the finger from the minute there coming on a center chronograph wheel there. Just gonna check why the minute is not jumping, and the same thing that we did on a chronograph. And you see now it's nice engagement there on the wheel. Just gonna do the same thing as well. We're gonna adjust all the. You see, I'm adjusting the spring there on the minute hand there. You see, we have a screw here that will move up and down. And let's check if now the minute is jumping. Yeah, you see now it's blocked on the spring. So we're gonna move it a tiny bit. You see, using this screw here, just moving the spring a tiny bit. And we're going to check when the finger is coming on the intermediate wheel a second time. See if now the minute wheel want to jump or no. Just checking there. Yes, you saw the jump. The jump was perfect there. So yeah, that was a nice way to have a nice minute. And now I'm gonna adjust as well the engagement of the intermediate wheel against the finger. So I'm just gonna use, you see this, and you see now the engagement is much better, and we're just touching a tiny bit, but not too much there when it come out of the intermediate wheel. So that's perfect as well, the engagement on the intermediate wheel. So we managed to have now a nice working chronograph. So we can carry on to move to the second complication, which is a date on this caliber. So basically first we have to put this, you remember there was this disc around. So just put it in position, just put with 3 screws. And obviously we're going to put now the rest of the calendar mechanism. Perfect. Just put a day disc right in the center there, and that go against this ring that we just put in position. We have a date jumper here. I put in position. Again, we're gonna oil as well the tip and gonna oil as well the wheels, just to make sure the jump is very nice on the date. Put the hour wheel there. Just placing the bridge on top from the calendar mechanism. Just need to align everything. Just putting these screws in position. Perfect. And now we are going to put the last wheel, which is a calendar, actually to do the jump on the calendar. Just put it with this screw in position. And this is a spring. You remember we put a date jumper under this bridge. And actually this spring will come against the jumper, just to have a nice jump when you come close to midnight on a date. Just checking now if we see the calendar jumping, just making the hour rotating, and tack, we just saw the jump there. Perfect. So we have the calendar mechanism which is working, and you see now it's going to come to another second time. There we go. We saw the jump as well. Okay, so now we have basically the caliber is finished, is reassembled. We're going to reassemble now this beautiful dial. Again, like I said at the beginning, I did not do anything on this dial. I did not do anything on the end. They are in very good condition. So I'll just keep it like fully original, and just gonna secure, you see the dial fit screw there, just to make sure the dial will not move anymore. And before we put the hand, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna disassemble as well, you see, the case, because I want to fully clean this case. So I'm just gonna remove, you see the rotating bezel there. Just gonna remove the crystal as well. Just going to use my Orotech custom press there. Again, I said, put the link down below in the description if you want to have the customized Orotech tool there, which are wonderful. Okay. So now we just took the crystal out of the way. We're gonna disassemble as well, just to make sure everything is clean inside. We're just gonna disassemble the pushers. So you see you have a screw underneath that we can unscrew from the inside of the case. And we have a spring inside the pusher as well. And now we're just going to do the same thing on the other one. And all this part, basically, that's why I want to disassemble, because you see a lot of dirt in this part. And I'm going to put them as well in my ultrasonic machine. And it's very important. You see, I put all these parts in baskets because we're going to put them in my ultrasonic machine. And to have a smooth operation, obviously you don't want to have the parts full of dirt. So that's why I put and clean everything individually in a cleaning machine, in my ultrasonic cleaning machine. So that's it. We put the part in my cleaning machine. I'm gonna clean them for like maybe 15 minutes in a special solution to remove any dirt that there is on these parts. And we see at the end the result that we have on this beautiful case. Okay, so now we're gonna reassemble as well the pusher. And you see, I put a tiny bit of grease as well on the pusher, just to make sure they operate very smoothly on the watch. And what you have to do when you put them, you have to put, you see, the button of the pusher in position with the spring. Keep it in one finger and screw it in position from the other side. There we go. And now you will have a nice working pusher, fully clean as well, on this beautiful case. In the case, which is actually in very nice condition, and which is chrome plated on this watch, and you don't see too much damage as well on this watch. Like sometime on the edge of a chrome plated case, you will see the chrome is gone, but this one is very good condition. I polish a crystal as well, so now I'm just gonna feed it in position. We'll have to press it. So again, I'm gonna use my Horotech tool there just to press the crystal in position. Perfect. I'm just gonna vacuum to remove any dust or dirt inside the case. And obviously now we can put a beautiful bezel as well, aluminum bezel, which is in very good condition as well for its age. Perfect. Just keep it in position. Just gonna, like I said at the beginning, we have this watch which is waterproof, so I'm gonna put a brand new rubber on this watch. Brand new gasket there. Just place it in position. And now we're gonna reassemble. You remember the beautiful, I love the handle, I love the patina on his hand, on his watch. Just put the hour hand first. Just press it there. You see with my Horotech tool there to put in position the hand. Perfect. Just do the same thing with the minute hand here. Just gonna align it perfectly to midnight. Just need to be very careful on this hand. You see I'm using as well my carbon tip tweezers there, just to make sure I don't scratch this very fragile dial with this matte finish on it. There we go, just pressing it. Yeah. And again, I'm just gonna check the alignment of the hand. Yeah, that looks good. Just gonna check if the date as well is jumping. Just go very slowly around midnight and coming close to midnight. Yeah, perfect. We have a nice jump around midnight. And I'll just put the other hand. So we have the second hand from the time, which is actually the second hand, which is always running. And you remember this one is directly on a pivot of the wheel that was difficult to remove or move on a train of wheel. Now we're putting the minute of the chronograph, just to align it perfectly to 0. Perfect. Perfectly at 0. And the same thing, we're going to do the last hand, and the most important on the chronograph, let's say, is the second hand from the chronograph that we need to align perfectly to the 0 position. And beautiful orange second hand there. We need to press in position. And very gently making sure everything stay aligned on the second hand there. Perfect. Now it's in position. Just gonna check. We have a start. Just gonna let it run a bit. And you see, I'm not really happy actually. And you will see at the end, not really happy with the alignment on the hands. So I'm just gonna realign them a bit later. And you will see the alignment that I get at the end. And you see now the minute jumped. So that's good news, because you remember we had to tweak the chronograph system just to adjust it perfectly. And we see the 0, yeah, there, perfect. The reset is working as well. We just have to realign a bit better the hand. Okay, I just now going to blow some air just to remove any dust, any dirt on the dial and in the case, just to make sure I don't trap any dust or any debris on the watch when we put the case back. Beautiful. And I can put back the winding stem now. Just align the hole, from to align the winding stem. Now I can press it, and I'm gonna press, you see there, just to insert, the crown. Perfect. Just gonna secure very quickly as well the clamping system, the clamp there to keep the caliber in position inside the case. Just gonna secure it there with 2 screws. You see it goes in this groove inside the case. And obviously you see there, just tighten the screw there. Perfect. Just gonna put the case back. You remember the case back that was untight at the beginning, and now I'm just gonna put it by hand. Just gonna realign, just to check to realign everything as well on the case back. Yeah, perfect. And I'm just gonna clamp it with my custom tool from Horotech, just to make sure this time the case back will be fully tight. Perfect. Now it's fully tight. We have a fully closed watch. Just gonna leave it for a couple of days as well on automatic winder. Even if it's not an automatic watch, I just like to have it turned just for the oil in a train of wheel, in different mechanism inside, just for the oil to set up properly before we adjust and put and check the time keeping on the watch. And again, you see there, we see if the chronograph want to start. Yeah, we see the minute, which is ticking. And again, you see, I just need to tweak a tiny bit the minute hand from the chronograph for the alignment. And on the second hand, it's perfect. And you see on the time grapher, actually now I adjusted the lift angle, and you see the amplitude is way up, went back up to 300. And you see the watch, when it's settling, he run around 0 seconds per day from a watch which is from the 70s, which is a great watch, great amplitude again. And this watch will run for many years and many decades if you service your watch properly. And again, like I said, this watch, look at this beautiful watch. It's on my website. You will have a link down below in the description if you want to go and buy this watch. To be fair, it's a wonderful vintage piece of history. It's in very good condition for the age, and now you have a chronograph which is running perfectly. I love this Yema chronograph, and you will see there beautiful dial with beautiful hand. You see the shine on it, and yeah, love the vintage look on this chronograph. And this is because today now they made some new vintage watch, but this is a true vintage chronograph watch. I hope you like this video. I hope you like this type of watch, and I hope you like the video, and I see you next time for our next challenge. Bye bye.